I am proud of the fact that these people I have arrested many times, and hundreds, if not thousands of people I arrested, um, I'd say 90% of them will all come up to me, give me a hug, tell me hello, cross the street to say hi to me, and when I was in Plummer here just recently, a couple of them come up, they put their hands behind their back, and they're, okay, Tami, I'm ready, but they'll all tell me, and they have told me before, like, you never disrespected us. You always treated us like a human being. You listened to what we had to say. And you did your job. You did your job. And a lot of them said, I saved their life.
Can you introduce yourself for me, please?
My name is Tami Holdahl. I am a lifelong resident from St. Mary's, Idaho. So basically, I've lived here my whole life. I just had my Medicare birthday, so that tells you how long I've lived in St. Mary's. So I've been married 47 years. I have 3 growing children and 9 grandchildren. So none of them live here. So been a really very active member of our community for my entire lifetime. So community service has always been at the forefront of my family. So, I just kind of grew up doing that, and I still do it now, having ran as a volunteer advanced EMT for 16 years on the ambulance here. That took a lot of time and effort, and just was on city council, was the mayor of city of St. Mary's. So just a lot of community service.
So I'm curious, before we start talking about your law enforcement career, was that EMT service, was that before law enforcement?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
I started that, and I became an advanced EMT in February 4th of 1983. And the reason I remember that is Karen Carpenter died that day, and it was all over the papers where we were taking our advanced tests.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of crazy. So yeah. But yeah, so I did it for 16 years. And we're a volunteer, short-handed like every small rural town.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's amazing how many calls a small town has.
Yeah.
So, but in 1996, March 1st of 1996, I had a major traumatic thing that I couldn't get over.
Oh, okay.
So I retired from being an advanced EMT, and then just kind of went to work at a shoe dryer place here in St. Mary's, and someone said, hey, you need to be a reserve officer. So
okay, so before we get into that, tell me a little bit about what kind of kid you were. What was your family upbringing? Did you have brothers, sisters? Were you a studious kid? Give me an idea.
I would say I have 2 younger sisters and a younger brother. We all grew up in a little house down there by the park, and it's a 700 square foot house and 1 bathroom. And so that door was never shut. It was always open. And I tell people, that we didn't have anything as kids growing up, but we had everything, because we had a mom and dad that loved us. We had the whole park to play in, and we lived in a small town. Like, you could get on your bike and ride anywhere, and there was no worry about anything. Yeah. So, as far as school, I was okay. I think I was one of those people that was like, I got along with everyone. Pretty athletic. I loved athletics. I did what we could. Title IX came in when I was a freshman in high school. So that's kind of foreign to young ladies in today's world. Title IX. What do you mean you guys didn't have basketball or any? No, we, and I swear back then, it was like, because they were made to do it. School districts were made to do it. I think they spun the bottle in the teacher's lounge, and just, wherever it ended, you get to be the coach for the girls teams that then. So, you went through a little bit of, it was a little heartbreaking, but we love doing it. And I'll be a lumberjack till the day I die, so it's okay.
So I'm curious, do you have a take on what's going on today in this day and age, 2024, with Title IX?
Well, girls athletics there should always be girls athletics. I might say that cautiously. Girls athletics. Girls.
Yeah.
Girls athletics.
Yeah.
That means the female. And I probably shouldn't say that all on camera, but I don't, you know what? I got to take that stand. I'm sorry. No. If you're born a male, you don't get to play in girls sports.
Right.
That's just, no.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it seems, I don't know, silly to me. Title IX is about women.
It's about women, and it's not about whether you change or what you do in your personal life is fine, but is none of my business.
Right.
But girls athletics are for girls athletics.
Yeah.
We're not built the same.
Right.
We're not. Men are not built like females. Females are not built like men. They never will be. Yes, you have some females that are bigger or like, but they're still not a man. It's completely different.
Yeah.
So I think that they should leave it like that.
Okay.
So that's how I feel.
So how did you end up with EMT? Because you didn't just jump into law enforcement. How did you end up being an EMT?
So the medical actually. So when I graduated from high school in the 70s, we'll just put in the 70s, from a small rural town in North Idaho, my parents were kind of old school. My parents are both passed now, but I wanted to go be a phlebotomist is what I wanted to do. First, I wanted to go in the military because I like that. So that's gonna tell you why I got into this.
Yeah.
And then my mom said no. And, back then you respected what your parents had to say. I was the oldest child, so there wasn't a lot that was available or encouraged to do. And I don't mean that badly about my parents. They were great parents.
Yeah.
But I think the unknown of like letting your kid go out there is great. So, so I was told no. And so basically the only thing left for me to do was get married and have children. So I know that sounds like old, but that is what happened to me. And so did I have a bad life? No, absolutely not. I didn't. I have 3 wonderful children. I have 9 incredible grandchildren. And so, but for someone like me, that's really hard because now I've had to switch gears, like completely switch gears.
Right.
So, yeah. So that kind of.
But why?
So my mom was an EMT.
Oh, okay.
And so then they were, and my dad was also, and they were so short-handed, so I'm like, well, I could do that. I'm young, I'm strong, those kind of things. So I went through the basic course, and then I think maybe a year or 2 later went through the advanced course. So
what was it about being an EMT that kind of drew you to that job, though?
I think again, service to the people.
Okay.
Honestly, it is a service to the people. You are out there helping people in their worst possible moment, a lot of them, and so just that, I knew that I could do well, and I knew that, that I have a heart to serve the people, period. So did it take its toll on, on my body? Yes, you're pulling people up the side of a mountain. It's crazy what you do way back then. Now they have all kinds of nice little equipment that you go push a button and away they come, but not back when I was doing it. So,
well, I'm curious. Some of the homicide detectives that I talked to, at least one of them started off as an EMT. Saw a lot of stuff as an EMT. But you're talking about the big city. You're talking about Seattle. You're in a small
Right.
community. How many traumatic events are you seeing as an EMT in a small community?
Actually, quite a bit. Uh, I don't, you probably didn't notice today, but there's a million logging trucks on the roads down here, tons of them,
Mm-hmm.
and you have, the worst roads ever. I don't know which way you came down. I don't know if you came across Plumber,
Yeah.
and there's just a lot of car accidents, a lot. But we also had a lot of suicides. We had a lot of that. You have a lot of we had mill injuries where they're cutting arms off. It's just drownings, because we have the lake and the rivers right here. And so there's just, there was a lot of trauma per capita for us per trauma is probably higher than the big city because they have more people and more, more moving and
Yeah.
whatever. But for here, it was amazing as to how much we had, a lot.
How did that affect you? Did it desensitize you or?
Um, I think that it's hard to not say like intrigue me, like what the body can do, what
Yeah.
the body is capable of doing. Now, what makes it bad here, is most of these people, and so
Yeah,
that
that would be tough.
that makes it tough because their family and you just know them, and so some of the biggest traumatic ones where death was involved, they're hard because the family.
Yeah.
So and you knew them. So but for me it was interesting because there was something new all the time. It was always something different. No two accidents were the same. Any call was the same. None of them. So you had your mundane transfers, but calls were always interesting. Always.
Do you alluded to the fact that there was something that happened that got you into law enforcement. Do you feel comfortable about talking about that?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay. Okay. Can you talk about that?
St. Mary's had flooded really bad. The 1996 flood was really high water, like 100-year flood. And so all these fields around here, probably when you're driving in, were all had water on them. Well, it had froze really hard. And my son was a senior at the time, and two of his classmates were out messing around on a overflowed field, and the ice gave way. So they spent a good portion of time trying to struggle to stay above the ice, and then they went under. But the thing that probably affected me most is that when I got there, we were getting on the fan boat, and the one kid that I knew had just been to my house not long before that. She looked at me, and of course I know her, and she said, "Tami, please don't stop until you find him. It's now dark. It's ice and mud and sticks and water 10 feet deep, and we're having to use a hook, throw a hook out and grapple back in." And I remember everybody, I can remember it like now, sitting on that boat, and all the rest of the deputies and a couple more, maybe another EMT. I'm not really sure about that, but they're like, "Come on, Tami, we've been out here for hours trying to fish him out of the water." And I just kept looking over on the shore, seeing his mom, and just going, "I can't quit.
Yeah.
I can't quit."
Yeah.
I said, "So you guys got to throw that in one more time, and so they hawked it out there, and it was we were catching a lot of sticks and stuff, and so the guy reeling it in, had a pretty good tug on it. Now these are 18-year-old healthy males,
Yeah.
and so he goes, "I don't think this is grass," and so it was the heave ho trying to get it in, and his boot come up out of the water, and
Mm.
they didn't make it, but it was very difficult because, your son is their same age, they're classmates together, and it, you have not only you have to deal with the whole feelings like I know these people, I know the mom, and what happened is now you have to tell your son, like he doesn't. I mean, they understand, they know what death is, but it's like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
We were pickleball partners this morning, and now he's dead. Like,
Yeah.
so you're going through a lot of emotion, a lot.
Right.
Like it's a lot. It
Okay.
was hard to get over that, and I don't know if I ever did. But,
Yeah.
but I said I put in my dues. I'm okay.
So ultimately, because of that event, somebody convinces you to become a reserve officer.
Mhm.
Did being an EMT help you later on in your law enforcement career?
Absolutely.
In what way?
Absolutely. Well, one, I have the medical knowledge of, what's going on with somebody, whether they're in a car hurt, whether they're in a house hurt, what's going on. I know what the basic, stuff of what the human body can do and what it's doing a lot of times, and other people wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Because I can tell by, just their breathing or their level of consciousness or their color or the way they're acting, talking. And, there are just a lot of things that I was way smarter than most officers. They were like, what do you mean that's what's going to happen? So, yeah, it just, and I tried really hard, like when the EMTs got there, like this is their baby, just I'm going to do my job, let them do their job, not tell them how to do their job.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're doing. So,
Yeah.
and they're volunteer too. So if they ask for help, I'd give it.
Yeah. So you become a reserve officer. Was there a reserve deputy? Was there? I take it that was never a goal for you. Did you just kind of fall into it?
It was never. I set out. Remember, I told you I wanted to go in the military because I thought, I have always thought I was a leader. Always thought that, and I always thought that I could like lead people and do good at it. So, when the guy asked me to be a reserve officer, I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, come on now. He goes, no, Tami, like everybody, you like you do things well. You're good at all the things that you do. And I think that they had seen me on the ambulance a lot. And
Yeah.
so they just saw how I would take charge of the worst things ever, and get things done. And so I think they just thought that, I would be good at it. And I didn't disagree with that. It was just I had never really, my kids were still kids, this is 1998. So my middle son was just graduating from high school. And so I never really gave that, like I'm going to be a cop someday. But when they asked me, then it was like, yeah, I could do that. I could do that, and I could do good at it. So
Any reservations at all? I mean, did you ever, for example, did you ever think about, okay, I've never thought about being a police officer before. Now I'm going to carry a gun. Is there a chance that I may have to kill somebody one day?
Oh, absolutely. You have to think about that because that's a complete shift from I'm saving people's lives to I probably could have to take somebody's life.
Yeah.
And so that's a complete shift in mindset. So there's a lot of soul searching in can I pull that trigger? Can I?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, I can do it. Oh yeah, I can do it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's still you really gotta search your soul. Can you take another life if you have to?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and as I thought about that, I thought, if it is to save my life, to save someone else's life, to save, whatever life, then yes, I could.
Yeah.
And I would. So
Okay, well, you start off with Benewah County Sheriff's Department. How does that go? How was your first job?
It was awesome because I had a great FTO officer. His name is Dean Salisbury. He ended up becoming my captain when I worked at the tribe, but he taught me so much, like just so much. He's an easygoing guy, and not like, oh, like I wear the badge, and so I say.
Yeah.
So he wasn't like that, but he's a big man, so huge guy. So he trained me. I think I made $7.35 an hour. So, and half of the time I was volunteer. So again, I volunteered most of my life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny though, because once I finished the FTO program, and they sent me to at that time they had a level 1 reserve program in Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene City had it, and we went through that, and I passed that. So once I got through all that, then it was, basically I'm on my own. Well, you've seen our county. It's pretty wilderness, pretty vast.
Yeah.
It's you don't have a straight road anywhere, and so it takes a while, and you can be back out in BFE out there and no radio communications. So
Yeah. So let me ask you. So for Benewah County, how many people did you have in your department?
oh, I think we had maybe 6 or 7.
Okay,
so
so you're
not a lot.
Yeah. So when you're in BFE, where's your backup? How close is your backup? No backup.
No backup. Maybe an hour. Could be.
How do you deal with that mentally? How do you?
Well, you kind of get. I'm not sure you even realize that when you first say you're going to be an officer, until you're kind of in the situation. You're like, oh crap, this could go bad.
Yeah.
This could go really bad. So, then you've got to think, then again, another mindset as to how you approach things and places. Your heightened sense of safety is heightened.
Mhm.
Like and it should be. And it should be, because you're out there in the middle of nowhere. So
Okay, so let me ask you two questions then. From a female perspective, one, do you think, did you ever have to worry about your own safety? But two, did you feel like maybe in these situations where you're in the middle of nowhere, you were able to communicate a little bit better and talk, not yourself out, but talk the suspects out of situations?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think that's our biggest tool, is our mouth. I'm telling you, man, if you know how to talk to people,
Yeah.
if you know how to talk to people, don't ever disrespect anyone. There's where a lot of cops go wrong.
Yeah.
Is the disrespect.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that. Like, don't ever do that, because even no matter what they've done, if you disrespect them, you're whatever you thought you were going to get done just isn't going to happen.
So I want to stay on this subject. I'm going to jump back to your career, but you became a post instructor,
Mhm.
2009 to 2019, and you were telling me you basically your favorite subject to teach was effective communication. So talk a little bit about that. What were you teaching these guys and gals at post in terms of effective communication?
Well, I think that for me, I love that, because I really feel when you can talk to people, not order people, not scream at people, but when you can talk. Now, there's a time for that. There is a time for that, to, be direct, but firm, fair, and consistent. But when you learn how to communicate to people, when you learn how to watch body language, when you learn to watch what they're doing, when you learn to listen to what they're saying, like when you look at their eyes, there's a whole lot to effective communication besides your being able to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So by the way my demeanor tells the people a lot of things.
Yeah.
The way I get out of the car, the way I approach a situation, what I say, what I do, everything. So I loved teaching at the academy. I thought that everybody loved my class. All the people that went through my class loved it. But what I would do is I would bring a lot of because the body camera is one of the best things ever invented for the cops. It just really was. I was against it at first, but I think it was probably one of the best tools we've ever gotten. So,
Why do you think that?
it stopped a lot of people accusing cops of doing things they never did or
Okay.
saying things that they never did.
Yeah.
You know, because you would always get these parents when you arrest a kid or whatever for whatever. Oh, my kid wouldn't do that. Really? Well, let's play the video. Oh, who's who's that?
Yeah.
Acting like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So now it stops all of that. And then the criminal also, or the suspect also, was aware that you were wearing a body camera. So now they know they're on camera. So how they act and what they do is also being recorded. So it would calm a lot of things down. It's kind of funny. You'd have your camera on and they'll start out like, like that. And then they forget that that we have the camera on, and then all crazy. But
let me ask you this. I've never asked anybody this, but because of the communication skills specifically that you taught, if I went back and just polled or talked to a whole bunch of people you dealt with, whether it was tickets or you actually arrested them or anything, what do you think they would say?
Oh, I already know what they would say. Because on what we'll talk about later, I have ran into a lot of those people, a lot of them. And I am proud of the fact that these people I have arrested many times, and hundreds, if not thousands of people I arrested. I'd say 90% of them will all come up to me, give me a hug, tell me hello, cross the street to say hi to me, and when I was in Plummer here just recently, a couple of them come up, they put their hands behind their back, and they're, okay, Tami, I'm ready, but they'll all tell me, and they have told me before, like, you never disrespected us. You always treated us like a human being. You listened to what we had to say. And you did your job. You did your job. And a lot of them said, I saved their life. So a lot of them said that. A lot of them said, if you had not taken the time, and I think that's part of the problem with today's world's cop, we don't want to take time with anybody. We're here, we take care of it, we're done, we're gone.
Yeah.
We don't take time. And I get we're busy. I get that. And yet, are we so busy that we can't take a extra 5 minutes to listen to what they have to say? So don't misunderstand me. I wasn't always, a shining star there, but I can say I did not disrespect people. I did not. I never made fun of them. I never degraded them. Never. Because why? That's not going to help me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But I have had a lot of people. I have one guy over there too. He comes up and he goes, "Hey, Tami, remember the time you smashed my face on the hood of that pickup?" Yeah, I do remember that. He goes, "Yeah, but I was all drunk and high, so I deserved it." And this is years later. So.
Yeah, I mean that's a real testament to the fact of the way that you actually treated people, is to have those people come back to you years later and not have any bad blood against you.
No, there's only been very few that have had, bad blood. And that's just the way they are. They didn't like me anyway, so it didn't matter what I did to them. So, and I didn't do anything to them. They're the ones that broke the law.
Right.
I just was doing my job.
Right.
So, but yeah, it makes me proud to know that I did, or I believe I did a good job. But getting back to the communication thing, I would take my videos, a lot of my, pretty crazy videos from my body camera, and I would show them in class. And I would show them, okay, I want you to write, this is what I would do. I'm going to show you this clip right here. It's like 10 minutes long. And I want you to tell me how you're going to deal with this guy. Like, what are you going to do? You might get guys that he's seeing spaceships and he's telling you no, and he's smoking his cigarette, and he's he's and yet he's talking about he worked for the CIA, and he's like, it's like, okay, how you gonna deal with this guy? And I would show, I had several, I showed one particular one, but several constitutionalists, sovereign citizens,
Mm-hmm.
don't have to have a driver's license, don't have to have a license plate, don't have to have this, don't have, and I have one fairly good one that you could tell had it with him. Bam, hit his stuff on top of the roof. I said, get out of the car. No, I don't have to get out of the car. I said, either get out of the car or you're going to be helped out of the car. And he, oh, you're scaring me. You're scaring me. I'm like, I'm 5'4", dude. You're a lot bigger than I am. So, it's funny. But he got out of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. So I don't know. But I also have a lot of guys. And again, I dealt with thousands of people, and I know that you probably go, no, you didn't. This is a small area. Yes, I did. A 24-year career that's a lot of people. And so, but I have people that'll come up to me in the random places and they'll go, hey, Tami. And I'll look at them like, oh, crap. Where do I know you from?
Yeah.
And how do I know you? So, but I'll hear them. They'll be like, hey, remember that time you kicked my ass? I'm like, you're 6'3". How did but you took me down so fast, I didn't even know what happened. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude, I don't remember. But he goes, no, all's good. I was doing something stupid, he said. So it's just like, wow, okay. But I look at him now and I think, I did what?
Yeah.
They're not making it up. It happens. So it's kind of funny. So.
Okay, so let's get back to your career. So from 2002 until 2016, you worked for two tribal police departments. You worked for the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Police and the Kalispel Tribal Police. Tell me what it's like, because I've interviewed an FBI guy who almost worked exclusively on tribal lands. But tell me what it's like as a police officer working on tribal lands, and what the difference is between working on tribal land versus working on a normal police department.
So I worked for the Coeur d'Alene tribe from 2002 to 2014. And then I went to work for the Kalispel tribe, the 2015 to 2018. So when I first went to the tribe, there was some stuff that happened at Benewah, and that's
Yeah. Is what it is.
yes, it's kind of the same reoccurring theme that you have in your other female interviews. Same thing.
Yeah.
So I knew before something was going to happen to me, I was like, oh no, I'm not going down that road. So a guy was working for the tribe that I knew and was encouraging, and he had the same philosophy of policing that I did, and we're gonna do good, and those kind of things. And so I went to the tribe, really naive. I had no idea that, I just thought it's going to be the same, that policing is the same there as it is anywhere. And I found out real quick that it is not. And so.
But you were telling me, explain to the audience, because you were telling me there were three things you had right away against you.
So I had, yes, I was called, I'll tell you what, I was called to two females fighting. And it was up in tribal housing, and I went up there, and I get there and nobody's fighting. And of course they all have scanners. So they knew I was coming, they heard me get dispatched, and I was new there. And there's a bunch of them sitting out in the yard in the lawn chairs. And I got out of the car and I walked up and I said, hello. I always would say hello, especially if I didn't know, who am I, hello, yeah. Hey, what's happening? Or, what's going on? And, that kind of stuff. So I walked up, and the one girl goes, what are you going to do? What do you mean, what am I going to do? Well, you're white, you're a female, and you're a cop. We hate you. Get the hell out of here. We'll beat you up. What? Whoa. Okay, welcome to the tribe. Yeah.
So you had those challenges.
Absolutely.
But
all the time.
But ultimately, I think it's fair to say that you kind of work through that. How did you work through that?
So I had many a calls where, the reservation is quite large, and I had many a calls that, you'd show up, and obviously I'm female, and obviously I'm white, and obviously I'm a cop. And so, again, communication skills is a lot of it, but not at first. They don't care how well you can communicate. So I would always do my job, but I would always I want a real tribal cop. Okay, well, this says I'm a real tribal cop. This is the patch. I'm a real tribal cop. Nope, you're white. Nope, you're white. So they wanted a tribal member that was a police officer. So I'm like, well, you got it. It's me. So after we worked through that little bit of hardship for a while, it's kind of funny. I heard that quite a bit and never gave in to them. You always just did your job. They were just trying to get out of something. So it was funny because a couple of the tribal officers, they were actual tribal members that were officers, were out on a call. And I was a sergeant at the time. And so I showed up and they're like, "We want Tami. We don't want you guys. We want Tami." I'm like, it wasn't that long ago that you didn't want me, but now you want me? Yes, because you do your job. So
what were some of the biggest challenges about working on tribal land? I hear a lot of Indigenous women go missing, and there's a lot of
domestic violence.
Yeah, that kind
a ton of it.
Yeah. So what was your biggest issues?
I would say domestic violence and drugs.
Okay.
Alcohol, drugs. That's usually the start of everything. So, but yeah, it was really heart-wrenching to see, these females getting beat. And I had one time tell me, I saw her in a car and I walked up to the window and I said, "Hey," and I called her by her name, and she said, "Tami, get out of here." And I'm like, "Dude, like, what happened to you?" She goes, "You know what happened to me." She goes, "Get out of here. This is just normal. Get out of here." Man, this is not normal. You're not a beating post for anyone. No one. I don't care who it is. It doesn't matter. She has since passed away, but yeah, just sad that I think they're getting better as far as the domestic violence. But when I first started, it was kind of all covered up. It was like, okay. And I don't think they feel that way now. Pretty sure they don't feel that way.
Yeah.
Being a tribal cop, tribal law is different than our law or non-tribal members' law. They have their own court.
I was going to ask you about that. So how does it work similar where you still have due process and the whole thing, or is it okay?
Yes, it does. If you're a tribal member and you get arrested for something, then you're charged through tribal court and you go to tribal court. So yeah, it was, a lot of it was, but a lot of it too, they really didn't do a lot to their tribal members. So it depends. So
did they? Oh, that's interesting. So did they were they pretty lenient with their own then?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so. But thankfully, at the time when I worked there, we were cross-deputized. So we could handle non-tribal and tribal. So which, in my mind, helped the county out, because at that time, we had like 16 officers. So the county had like 16 free officers, at their disposal to take care of non-tribal things. Because there's non-tribal people living all over. So, right. And driving through there. So you had the best of both worlds. You could deal with the tribal people and you could deal with non-tribal people. So it was, it was good. It was fun. It's a lot of fighting and a lot of running. a lot. a lot, a lot. So you just knew that you're going to either be in a fight or you're going to be in a pursuit. That was it. So
Wow.
always,
Okay.
always.
So in 2018, you become the chief of police for Pinehurst. Tell me how that comes about, and tell me the challenges of you kind of not realizing what had happened prior to you coming in.
So I was working for the Kalispel tribe at the time. Actually loved my job out there in Airway Heights. Things were going like I was planning to stay there till I was done because it was pretty busy. I got to be fairly knowledgeable in the drug world because we had a lot of drugs, a lot every day. So I got pretty good at that. But I knew someone that was on the city council in Pinehurst, and she gave me a call one day, and I still lived here. And she said, "Are you still an officer in Idaho?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm a reserve officer. I've been, to keep my certification, I was a reserve officer and plumber." And so I said, "Well, why?" And she goes, "Well, we're looking for a chief of police." And I'm like, "No, no, no." Even though I will say that had been a goal of mine to become a chief, because I had an incredible good chief while I was on the tribe. His name was Chief Tom Cronin. He was from Chicago. He'd retired from Chicago and came out here and was our chief. And I learned so much from him, like so much about being a good chief, that I knew someday I could be just like that. And so when she called and asked, I was like, no, I'm okay. And she said, "But please, will you at least give us an interview? Will you at least interview for us? You don't have to take the job, but at least interview." So, okay, I'll come and interview. So I did. And of course, that I think they offered me the job the next day. So, whoa, what are we talking about? Like what? What is my pay? Idaho's a lot less than Washington. And but I wanted to get back to Idaho because Washington is crazy. So it's crazy with what the cops can't do, more than anything.
Yeah.
But so I accepted the job as the chief of police. Well, I did not know that prior to me getting there, the city had contracted with the Shoshone County to be their police force. And there was some big row with the city about how often they were in town and just things like what cities and counties go through.
Yeah.
You're never here, and yet we're paying you, and we provide the office, and we have cars, and you're all over the county in our cars, and stuff I wasn't there, so I did not know. Their evidence room had been broken into, and I didn't know that. And the place was a shambles. Like I walked into that, our department, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" Like, oh, I didn't have guns. I had cars. That's all. I had 2 cars. That's what I had. That was basically it. I had a computer system that was outdated and wasn't running, and I did not realize just how bad it was. And so the sheriff at the time did not like me. Why? I don't know. He didn't even know me, but I think it was because of the bad blood between Pinehurst and them, that he was going to make my life a living nightmare, and that he did. And so I always believe that all of us in law enforcement should work together. I don't care what color your shirt is. Yeah. I don't care. Because what are we there for? We're there to serve the people. That's what we're there for.
Right.
And what better way to serve the people than to work together in serving all the people? So, but nope, he wouldn't let his deputies come in to Pinehurst. Everything was left for us for tomorrow, or for me for tomorrow. It was crazy stuff, like stuff that should have been taken care of in the nighttime by the county that, nope, they saved it for me the next day. DUIs that crashed into trailers and took off, and then what? It's crazy, so I quickly learned very quickly that I wasn't there to push any buttons for the sheriff. Just leave him alone. Just do my job.
Yeah.
And I had a very difficult city council, even though they loved me, but they became very difficult. They were more concerned about the dandelions in the neighbor's yard than they was the drug trafficking and the rape that was occurring and all of the bad things that occur, child molestation stuff. I think that's one thing about being a small rural police officer. You get it all.
Yeah.
You get from the dandelions in the yard to murder.
Yeah.
So you get everything in between, and you don't get to hand it off to someone else. And just about the time that you think that you're going to sit down and write this very important, report, you get called to something else that doesn't get penned for someone else. It's you. And so, so I had to deal with that, and I had to deal with trying to get a department up and running. I had to hire people. I was very busy for the first year, very busy, just trying to piece that all together and just trying to make amends with the sheriff's department, trying my best to, I'm not the enemy. Stop treating me like I'm the enemy. Who are you hurting? You're hurting the people. You're not. My job, I'll do my job. So, it was very difficult.
Did you ever finally get it smoothed out, do you think?
So when I got it smoothed out, I retired. And since I got a couple pretty good guys to run for city council, and they won. And so 5 months later, then I retire. And I'm like, what was I thinking? Now it's a piece of cake. I go back there. They got brand new cars. They got more money. And but
yeah.
It was a lot to deal with, the evidence room being broken into. Then I have all of that, to take care of. It truly, I look back on some of that and I think to myself, how in the world did I make it through all of that? But you just one day at a time.
Yeah.
You just keep going. But those one days at a time, I also was being an officer. I was a working chief. I was out in the public a lot, and because I believe I should be. And so, it's hard. It's hard. So.
Okay, so you retire in 2022.
Yes, I do. May of 2022. I had lost the sheriff's race in 20.
Okay.
Because of closed primary, and my dad had just died, and I broke my ankle really bad. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? I'm missing all of my grandkids' stuff. My mom's health was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
When can I retire?
Yeah.
So I'm not that I loved my job. I did. I loved being a cop. Absolutely. I love patrol. Patrol is where it's at. It is truly where it's at. You catch and you see everything on patrol. You really do. It's crazy, the stuff that I've seen and the stuff that we did.
I just think it's absolutely utterly amazing, the things that you see on patrol that 99% of the public don't even realize.
Oh yeah, no, they don't even know. They have no clue. Traffic stops. I loved running traffic. I loved it because I had, I have 3,000 hours in continuing education. So I was trained a lot in a lot of things. And one of the fun things is traffic. People, their body language tells you everything. So you can catch a lot of stuff on traffic. You really can.
Yeah.
You can, but you got to know what you're doing too. You got to want to do it. So.
Okay, so it's 2024 now.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this interview. What are you doing? And why are you doing it? That's the big question.
So I am running for the House of Representatives, District 2, Seat B. It's a extremely large district. It takes in 5 counties. And so
5 counties. Which counties are we?
Clearwater, Shoshone, Benewah, the eastern half of Kootenai County, the northern part of Kootenai County, and a small sliver into Bonner County.
Wow,
So
that really is huge.
it's a huge district. Huge.
Yeah.
So yeah. So some people. I apparently I have something across the top of my head, like it should be, like that. I'm not sure why all these people come and want me to do things. So, and in leadership roles. So, and in headache and gray hair roles is what it is. But had asked me, begged me to run for the House of Representatives for our district. And I was like, you guys, I need a quiet, simple life. Like, I just need a quiet, simple life. And so my mom had just passed away. And I'm just like, no. And I told him, no. I said, I'm not. I reached the top of the ladder being the mayor, and reached the top of the ladder being a chief. And I've seen it all. So not all. I mean, no one's ever seen it all. But I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot and done a lot. And nope, no, I'm good. That's state level. I'm not good at politics. I just am a normal person like everybody else. And I got a phone call from a friend of mine that had been in Boise and said, hey, I was in Boise and I heard your name a lot at the Capitol. And I went, what? What do you need? What are you hearing my name for? Oh, she said, no, there's a lot of people talking about you. And I said, why? Because they think that you should run for this seat, this House of Representatives seat. And I'm like, what? So I respect this person. And I said, so tell me honestly, do you believe I can do that? And do you think I can do a good job if I do that? And they said, absolutely, you can do that. The guy that's in there is really far right-wing militia. Really bad, like wants to take away all the public schools, wants to use your tax dollars for vouchers to pay for people to homeschool and private school their kids. And just he votes like the Freedom Foundation wants him to vote. He's a puppet for them. We need someone that will stand up for the people. So I thought about it for like one day. I didn't have much time, and because it was the week that it had to be in. And so I thought about it, and I could hear my mom. Sorry, it's pretty recent. So I could hear my mom say, you should do it, but you'll be a fool if you do. So, but you should do it. You should do it because you can make a difference. You have made a difference. Everything that I've done, I have made that difference. Is it to the scale that I want? No, but I can make a difference. And so I threw my hat in as an independent because I feel both parties have lost sight as to why they're there. You're there for the people. You're there for the people, period.
Yeah.
And not to fight about party politics. And you're there to make the best decision for the people. And again, we've been talking about my servant, like a public servant, pretty much my entire lifetime.
Yeah.
And so, so I went down and asked what I had to do. And of course, if I was a Democrat or a Republican, I could just pay $50 and I'd be in. And nope, because I'm an independent, I got to find 50 registered voters to sign this paper. And I've got to get it down to Boise by Friday. So away I went. Good thing I'm from here. I know a lot of people that vote. So I got 50 signatures fairly, it took me afternoon. So I got quite a few. And I flew to Boise on Friday and handed my stuff and flew back home. So, and ever since then, that's all I've been doing. It's kind of crazy. I've been a lot of places already, and it's me, myself, and I. I don't really have a committee. I don't have a party backing me. So
Did those people who wanted you to run, did they know that you would run as an independent, or did they want you running as a Republican or Democrat or?
they did not know that I would run as an independent, but that was the first thing I said. I said I will not run as a Republican and or a Democrat.
And they're
I will
okay
not.
with that?
Yeah, and they said that's fine. We just need someone to run against this guy because he's terrible. So, and he's not doing us people
Yeah.
any good. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's yeah. They at first said, well, that's okay, and then now 5 months, 6 months into it, it's like, no, we're really glad you're running as an independent, because the way that the country is so divided
Yeah.
between Republican, Democrat,
Mhm.
people will look to vote for you because you are not one or the other. And actually, I've found that to be fairly true in all the places that I've been. Like today, I was in Elk River all day at their festival, and I had a lot of people say, because I always introduce myself as, hey, I am that candidate. I am the real candidate here. And that always catches people's attention because usually the candidates don't do it. It's, they have committees for doing that. Everywhere I've been, they've had committees. Not my opponent's never been there. So, and so they pay a little bit more attention. Their handshake is a little firmer. But I was just telling them I'm an independent because this is what I said. I feel both parties have lost sight as to why they're there. And I would say 99% of the people say, you have got that right. We're glad you're running as an independent and that you're there for the people.
Good.
So, yeah, that's been encouraging.
Yeah.
A lot encouraging. A lot of people have been really encouraging. Even the people that can't vote for me, like, I'll tell people now whether they do or not. I don't know, but if they do, word of mouth is probably your best advertisement.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it truly is.
I think we talked about this before we started recording. I just think it's interesting in the state of Idaho. It's pretty much Republican dominated, but
Yes.
there's a lot of the term rhino and everything else, and when you talk about your opponent being so far right and wanting to do away with public schools and everything else, I mean, it's like
the bad thing is that when you talk about things like that, obviously you're not originally from a rural area like
Right.
this,
Right.
because I don't know, 70% of Idaho probably is rural.
Yeah.
Really small schools, small communities. And what does those small communities revolve around? They revolve around your school.
Yeah.
They revolve around your school.
Mhm.
And so when you're talking about a massive amount of Idaho that is really rural, that go around their schools, like revolve around those schools, everything is done for the schools. It's like, that's sad that we would want to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And so
Are there now that you're 5 months into this, are there specific issues that you have now looked at and go, if I get elected, I'd like to kind of tackle these issues?
Yes, absolutely. One of them, and probably the one that I will stand firm on, is I really believe the trade program should come back to our schools. I think that we need to set our kids up for success, especially in today's world. If they don't want to go to college, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right.
I think that's probably a good thing, because then they're not incurring debt that they're going to have forever. Let's steer them into something that they like to do, because as well as I do, if I like to do it, I want to do it. I want to do it. And so, there's a million trades out there. We're not talking about just welding and electrical and plumbing, although those are great trades. But
Yeah.
the CDL drivers, there's hairdressers, there's EMTs, there's all sorts of things like, that kids can get into that, would help them. You become an EMT, then maybe someday you might become a cop. I don't know. Or you might go on and get your nursing degree, or you might doctor, or whatever.
Yeah.
it exposes you to things that you think you want to do, and that's awesome because you're going to find out whether you want to or not real
Yeah.
quick. So I also really believe that home ec and, and shop or mechanic should come back and be a required class for every kid in the high school for 1 semester. 1 semester of home ec and 1 semester of mechanics.
Yeah.
And I just think that we have generations of kids that they
can't even balance a checkbook.
they can't, and they like, oh, my tire's flat,
Easy stuff.
yeah, where do you fill the windshield washer at? I'm not talking about rebuilding an engine. I'm talking about the basic things to make your car go from A to B. You can figure it out. So and sew a button on or boil water. Like I don't know, easy things. Balance a checkbook. And people say, well, why do they have to balance a checkbook for? You got a phone, well, that might not always run.
Right.
Might not always be there. So you never know. I have no idea.
Well, it's very interesting you bring up the trades because I'm sure Mike Rowe, the guy's got his foundation where that's all he's pushing is the trades, and he goes, look, I don't even know the number at this point. I think he's like 70,000 jobs to be filled.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to do it. No, it's ridiculous.
And I look at it as you have this group of kids that get things because they don't have anything, and you have this group of kids that get everything because they're intelligent and smart and everybody gives them stuff. But then you have this group of kids, which lies basically the backbone of America.
Yep.
My parents' generations, my generations, my kids' generations, now my grandkids' generations. And I look, my grandson just graduated from K-Tech up in Rathdrum, part of the Lakeland School District, but it's their trade program. And they have it's a beautiful facility up there. But he likes to build. He's building houses actually right now. He just graduated. He had his first 2 years of his apprenticeship done through K-Tech. They took his core classes in the morning, and then he went to K-Tech in the afternoon. You have to be a junior and a senior up there to do it. And it drew from both Coeur d'Alene high schools, Post Falls High School, Rathdrum, and Timberlake. So a pretty big drawing. But they had a list of trades quite long, so but what better way for a kid, to get started? He's out of school. He's already got 2 years of his schooling done, and he's already got a job. Yeah. And he's building houses and learning how and working towards his journeyman's license to build houses. So I just don't see how any of that is bad. I just don't. And I had one voter say, well, I don't really think that our taxpayer dollar should pay for that. And I'm like, well, but why? I said, I'm interested to see why. Well, don't you think that the trade people should pay for that? And I said, well, okay, but if we set a kid up for success, or as much as we can, I mean, it's got to be a two-way street. They've got to want to do it also. But I said, aren't we making them a productive citizen in our society? Is that not better for our economy? Like, aren't those good things for us? We don't have a bunch of kids sitting around and not doing anything or wanting to be on SSI for no reason. Like this, come on, you guys. So, and I said to him, so, well, should we let them go to school to be, to try and encourage them to be lawyers or doctors or dentists? What's the difference? Yeah, those are big eye in the pie jobs, but rocket scientists, I don't know. What's the difference? We should set every kid up for success that we can. Yeah. And so I'm a firm believer that needs to be back in our schools, and way more than what it is. Yeah. So way more than what it is. And I know legislation can help with that. Yeah. So the other thing, I really believe that a lot of common sense, things like, our lunch programs for our kids during the summer. I know that's just one minor thing. But those things shouldn't go away. They just should not go away when, we are making crazy bills out there about cannibalism. And yet You're taking the lunch program. I mean, those two things are not, they don't even on the same boat
Of
with me.
importance.
Yeah, no, not at all. So, I learned today something else. It's amazing what you learn when you go places and listen to people. Good leader will listen. They listen and they take in everything that's in, and you try to make a good decision. You also, a good leader, asks the people that actually do the job, how does this work? Instead of me at legislation level, or me even as the chief of police, I would never just, we're going to do this from now on. I would always say, hey, you guys, what do you guys think about this? Like, do you think this will work? Do you think this won't work? What do you guys think? And I would always get their input into why they thought it wouldn't work or why they thought it would work, and then make the decision what's best. So I feel the same way about legislation. If we're making rules about the teachers, let's just say teachers, since we're on the school thing, I don't believe that me sitting at, and even though I did teach at the academy, but that's different. That's not teaching kids, that's teaching adults. And I really believe that I should ask the teachers that actually teach what works and what don't work and why. Tell me what would work then. Like, give them, like, you care about them. You want their job to be easier. You want to give them the tools and the funding to do what they need to do. Because why? They're educating our youth, is what they're, our next generation. So let's help them instead of hinder them. So I really believe that you need to do that. But I found out today that the firefighters are down around Elk River. And a lady came over. She was fairly hot at my booth. And I'm like, what, just introduced myself. And she says, what do you think about the firefighters that don't have enough time in, that they don't get fed? And I looked at her and I went, what? Like, no, I don't care if you've been there an hour. Like, you get fed. You're trying to save our forest or whatever. What are you talking about? She goes, oh no. She goes, some of these firefighters haven't been on the firefighting crew long enough to get their meal paid for, to get fed. They have to bring their own food. I go, what? No.
And you're talking about forest fires. So these guys are
forest fires, and I saw them all there today too. So I knew she was telling me the truth. And then someone else said something about it. I'm like, what? And she said, yeah, those guys over there, pointing at the other booth over there, said, oh, it's just a policy. Well, policy, we need to change that policy. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't care if you've been on there a half hour, you get fed because you're. But see, again, we are making rules that just don't have in my opinion, there's no common sense to it. So, zero. So.
Okay, so if you're doing, I'm going to ask you this, and maybe there isn't an answer to this, but if you're doing this all by yourself and people wanted to help you, how would they reach out to you? Do you have a website? Do you have anything like that?
Yes, I do. I have a website and I have a Facebook page. So,
okay, I'm going to, for the audience, I'm going to put it in the description so you'll find her Facebook and website there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so 2 questions I always ask. First of all, did law enforcement affect your family?
Absolutely.
How so?
Cops are different. They're different people. We're not like everybody else. We aren't. And cops have a lot of pride. Cops have a lot of, I can handle everything. You have that. And back when I did it, the traumatic things that I saw and all that, we never had counseling. We never had any of that. We had buck up and get through it. No, you did. Yeah. I mean, you really did. And you're correct. It's like, that's foreign in today's world. But I remember I had 9 traumatic accidents, where heads are cut off, like bad traumatic accidents, 9 of them in a 6-month period. And I struggled with that. It was hard to But then it's hard to come home and just be normal. I hear a lot of people say that they can just leave it, there. I'm like, that's good in theory, but you're still a human being.
Yeah.
You're still a human being. And you find yourself not sharing like how you feel because you really don't think you can, because you're talking about other people, and it's just a weird, it changes you.
But let me ask you this.
Changes you.
I think you said this. You've been married for 42 years?
47.
47 years. So how did you maintain that relationship?
Very difficult.
Yeah?
There's a reason cops have the highest divorce rate and substance abuse rate, and
But you must be doing something right, because that's 47 years. That's a long time.
Or else you're just with each other so long, it's just okay. It's normal. I think it probably affected my children more, because they were older and knew me as their mom. I knew me as their mom as they were growing up, and now all of a sudden I'm still their mom, but now I'm somewhat different. Like, I'm not like their mom.
Yeah.
I wasn't the same. And that's hard to explain, but it did. I remember all of my kids just saying, "What is wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with me."
Yeah.
But they notice the difference. And when you don't think you are changed, or I haven't changed, and then they say, what is wrong with you? It's like,
in what way though, Tami? Were you edgy? What was that?
I don't think, because I'm fairly easygoing. Like, I'm fairly, I don't really get too upset about too many things. I think it was just the withdrawn, like the not talking about anything. You be a cop too. I was born and raised that you work. So the family comes second. So when you miss all the holidays and you miss all the birthdays and you miss all the athletic events, all my children were very athletic, and you don't have that many friends anymore. And so they noticed those things because it was completely different from when they were growing up. So I think that that is some of that, but a lot in my latter years as being a cop, I think I got better at that because I realized that, this isn't everything. This job isn't everything, and not, spend all of my time at work. And I did.
Yeah.
I did. Like, I did. I was the supervisor that, hey, we take turns on the holiday shift. I'm one of those. You take turns. Like, you work 4 hours, I work 4 hours, because we worked a lot alone.
Yeah.
Almost all the time alone. Yeah. So, or I was like, you can't cover this shift, I would cover this shift, that kind of stuff. So, and then I stopped doing that because, I got a bigger job, I guess. So, but I still did it, because why? Because I'm concerned for my people, concerned for my officers, concerned for, how they're doing.
Yeah.
That was always a big thing for me. Wherever I worked, it was always, and when I was a supervisor, it was always, anything bad happened, it'd be a phone call. Hey, how you doing? How's things going? Because children are the worst, when things happen to them, these young guys, they think they can handle it, but
right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it was a great career. I mean, I have all the horror stories like all the other women, of the whole sexist thing, and you can't do it, and you have to prove yourself to them, to the public, to the admin, to the, it was just a constant proving that I can do it. There was one time I had showed up for work, and the chief came in and he said, "Hey, you need to probably stay close to the office today." What? Why? Like, that seems weird. Like, why would I stay in the office? Well, the night shift guy found some cardboard signs that had been made that had my call number 788. I was 788, and they had a big red circle through them and the slash line, and we will get you. Well, they were plastered all over a town in Worley, and so they were a little concerned for my life. They were everywhere.
Any idea what that was
I
about?
had no idea. They kept saying, "Well, who did you piss off now?" And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. But to this day, I still don't know. But, it was definitely meant for me.
Yeah.
Definitely. But so yeah, things like that change your, just having to prove yourself, the whole, you never know when you leave home. I've been shot at. I've been in a million fights. You just never know.
Yeah.
You just never know. So it does change you. Even if you're not aware of it, it changes you.
So last question I always ask then, can you look back from when you started your law enforcement career to even now? Has there been any change in the way you see people and see people in society?
Oh, well, right after I retired, I thought, what have I done to myself? I don't belong out here.
Yeah.
That seems really weird, but I actually thought that. I was like, what am I doing? Like, these people, they're worried about all kinds of stupid crap, and I'm sitting here thinking about, like, aren't you concerned about that tweaker over there and that tweaker over there and that dumbass over there? Are they, like, you guys are worried about whether your bread is hot? Like, I never had a hot meal in my life, I swear, for 24 years anyway, while I was working. I was like, come on now. And then I just kept thinking, I really don't belong. It's very difficult to, like, kind of try and get back into society. It truly is, because you don't take the cop out of you.
Yeah.
Anywhere and everywhere you go is like, because I can read body language so well, that's all I do, and I find myself, I try to, like, don't just stay looking at what you're looking. Don't look at anything else. And so, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
You did that forever. And again, society looks at things differently than we do. They really do. And they don't, which I don't necessarily think that that's bad, but it just shows you how naive they are to everything going on around them.
Yeah.
And so,
has it gotten better for you as you
yeah,
longer you've been retired? Okay.
Absolutely. I still, there's still a lot of things I still do, but reading people, I'll never probably ever stop reading people. Never stop reading people. But I think that's a superpower. Let's call it a superpower. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's if more officers would learn to hone that skill, they would have less. They would have less heartache. I really believe, and learn how to talk. So, but they got to believe their sixth sense, their gut feeling. Always believe that. I still, even though I'm not a cop, if something's telling me no, if my gut is telling me no, it's no. Because there's some reason it's telling me no. So, it's, I would tell, if you didn't ask that question, but if I had advice for younger officers, it would always be, listen to your gut, always listen to it. I don't care if you never find out why it was telling you that, because you maybe don't need to know why, but listen to it, because in my career, it was never wrong. It was always, don't go in there, or stop, or whatever, or be careful when you come up to this car, or don't stop that car, whatever it was. I believe it was never wrong. And the other thing I would tell female officers, pee when you have to pee. I'm going to tell you that right now. Because you always think you're sitting there typing this report and you got a great train of thought and you have to pee. It's like, oh no, I'll get this done. And it never fails. Never fails that you get a call and it's 4 or 5 hours later. So no. And we don't get to just go to the side of the road and pee. No, we don't. And especially in rural, like, where do you go?
Yeah.
There's not a, there's not a service station, or there's not a police department, or there's not anything. Like, and you usually have to take all your stuff off. It's like, so when you have to pee. Oh,
Tami, really appreciate the interview. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.